New York City's Roseland Ballroom was the location of the most evil boxing event, which took place on November 23, 2001. Richard Grant prevailed over Butler in the match, which was ultimately decided by a unanimous vote. Thus, Butler took off his gloves while Richard Grant was still celebrating. For the anticipated exchange of congratulations, Richard Grant made his way over to Butler's side of the ring. On the other hand, Butler had another evil plan in mind. Instead of shaking the hand of his opponent, he surprised Richard Grant by punching him in the face, and then struck him with a right hook to his jaw using only his bare hands. Richard Grant sustained a lacerated tongue and a jaw that was temporarily dislocated, both of which required him to receive approximately 26 stitches. As a result, an aggravated assault charge was brought against Butler. Therefore, he was ultimately found guilty and sentenced to a period of 4 months of incarceration at the Rikers Island detention facility. But that's not all. A freelance sports writer by the name of Sam Kellerman was discovered dead, and at the time, all suspicions were directed towards James Butler as the person responsible for his death. Thus, keep watching this video to see the shocking story of James Butler Jr. James Butler Jr. is a former professional boxer from the United States who competed in his sport from 1996 until 2004. With 20 victories and only 5 defeats in the super middleweight division, Butler got off to a promising start in the sport of boxing. But after James Butler Jr. was defeated by Richard Grant's unanimous decision, Butler's actions led to the beginning of his notoriety within the industry. During his time, James was also responsible for the murder of his friend Kellerman, which led to him being referred to as the most evil boxing figure in history. As a boxer, James Butler was born and raised in the harsh and unforgiving state of New York. He was raised by his mother, who preferred nightlife to child rearing, in a housing project in Harlem. He also spent time in foster care and in jail, and there was never any sign of his father. On the other hand, Sam Kellerman was born and raised in the affluent and privileged city of New York. In a posh apartment building on Fifth Avenue that was built before the war, he resided. In spite of the fact that James was a super middleweight weighing 168 pounds, he was so short-tempered that he frequently snapped at other boxers who were training in the gym. Jack Stanton, who was Butler's first manager, made the statement during a recent boxing match. Boxing was all James really had. Boxing and Sam. Stanton observed. There were 3 brothers in Sam Kellerman's family, 2 younger brothers named Harry and Jack, and 1 older brother named Max, who was an enthusiastic sports talk show host and boxing analyst. In Hollywood, California, on October 17, 2004, the body of Sam Kellerman was discovered lying on the floor of his apartment, which was covered in blood marks. According to the authorities, his body had been lying there for several days. Incense sticks were found lying across the burners, and papers that had been burned were discovered in the living room, according to them. They also discovered that the stove was leaking gas. During a recent telephone interview, Bjorn Dodd, a deputy district attorney in Los Angeles, stated that the evidence presented provided evidence of arson. Butler turned himself into the authorities by turning himself in 3 days after the body of Kellerman was discovered. At the University of California, Los Angeles Medical Center, where he had gone to receive treatment for bipolar disorder, he was held for arrest. After being charged with murder and arson, Butler, who had been staying with Kellerman since September of that year, entered a plea of not guilty to both charges. Kellerman was sitting in front of his desktop computer when he was struck from behind with a blunt object more than 30 times, according to autopsy reports and a forensic analysis of the crime scene, Dodd said. A bloody hammer that was discovered close to Kellerman's body is thought to be the weapon used in the murder. Dodd stated that Butler caused the blood to be found in Kellerman's bathtub by slicing his wrists and ankles. In other words, Butler attributed the blood to an attempted suicide. On the other hand, forensic scientists discovered that Kellerman's blood was present in some of the blood that was found on Butler's clothing. Dodd stated that the physical evidence presented a compelling case against Butler. However, there was a fundamental component that was lacking, and that was a motive. According to Dodd, the most unusual thing about this is not if Butler did it, but why he did it. There didn't seem to be any bad blood between them. Why did James murder him? Within the sport of boxing, Butler was a rising star, but his mother was never a fan of boxing and she never watched Butler compete. On the other hand, Kellerman was one of Butler's biggest supporters. Kellerman encouraged his brother Max to promote Butler on television, and Max gave in to Kellerman's request. Sam believed in him, believed in his future as a fighter, according to Max. In addition, it was Alexander Newbold, the trainer of Sam Kellerman and Butler, who was responsible for the formation of their friendship. Newbold fostered a sense of camaraderie among his fighters by encouraging them to interact with one another outside of the gym. According to Newbold, this young man was a white Jewish boy from the downtown area. However, Sam accepted him for who he was. Sam saw nothing more than a person he could assist in James. He therefore assisted him. Also, Kellerman's resume was quite diverse before he left New York City, which was approximately 1 year before he passed away. He participated in commercials, and he also tried out for a part in the HBO series called Entourage. He also produced music videos and recorded rap songs, in addition to writing and directing plays, beginning a book about the Yiddish language with his grandfather, and producing music videos. During this time, Butler's boxing career was in a state of disarray. The most embarrassing moment of his life was also his most significant. Butler committed a major sin of the ring after being humiliated by teases and abused by jabs from Richard Grant during a charity match that was broadcast on national television 2 months after the terrorist attacks that occurred on September 11, 2001. While still wearing his boxing trunks, Butler was taken into custody and sentenced to 4 months in jail for the crime of assault. It was quickly determined by psychiatrists that he suffered from bipolar disorder. He became lethargic and his weight increased as a result of the medications that the doctors prescribed for him. In addition, the comeback that Butler made was unimpressive. Despite his efforts to get himself back into fighting shape, he was unsuccessful in 2 of his 4 fights in 2004, which were against opponents that he had personally selected. At that period, while Butler was working for the trainer Buddy McGirt in Vero Beach, Florida, he met his girlfriend, Chase Mariposa. However, Mariposa exposed that Butler suffered from depression and had trouble sleeping. In order to prevent himself from exploding in a fit of rage, he would frequently consume warm milk, go for a walk around the block, or put on headphones. Mariposa stated that he desired to take his medication, but doing so would have a negative impact on his ability to box. And because Butler was only familiar with boxing and there was no money in his possession, he decided to reach Sam Kellerman, the one person who had always been there for him. So Butler made the decision to travel to Los Angeles in order to spend time with him. According to Max Kellerman, Butler had intended to spend only a few days with his brother prior to his departure. Despite this, Butler was still present at the location when Sam Kellerman's body was discovered nearly 2 weeks later. According to Mariposa, Butler made statements to the effect that he had been experiencing manic episodes and had been feeling suicidal in his telephone conversations. As soon as Butler called after Kellerman's body was discovered, Mariposa stated that she suggested that he get in touch with the authorities. Mariposa stated he had been drinking, he was mumbling, and he kept repeating something over and over again. I shouldn't have done what I did. I should not have acted in the manner that I did. After that, he shifted the topic of conversation to his child and expressed his desire to see his child. The deputy district attorney, Dodd, stated that when detectives asked Butler about where he was the night Kellerman was killed, Butler responded that he had gone for a walk around the block and found the body when he returned to the apartment. But it is still unclear to this day why he did not notify the authorities. To what end did he run away for 3 days? Please share your thoughts on whether or not you believe James Butler Jr. was the most evil boxer in the history of the sport in the comments section below. And that wraps things up. We appreciate you taking the time to watch this video. Please hit the subscribe button and we'll see you in the next one.